Welcome to Old Rare Files. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe, become a member, and like our content.
The final hours of Benito Mussolini in Italy during the collapse of the fascist regime in the Second World War. He was captured while trying to escape. A child appears weak in a woman's lap, reflecting hunger, unemployment, and insecurity. It marked social change and opened the way for aid programs and new economic policies in the West. An entire street appears destroyed, with collapsed buildings and mountains of rubble on both sides like a post-war scene. In the center, a bulldozer works to clear the debris. In a factory room, two workers in lab coats inspect and test dozens of inflated condoms lined up in rows on a table. A construction worker poses sitting on a steel beam hundreds of feet above the ground, with New York City spreading out in the background. Destruction caused by an earthquake in a cold, mountainous region. Rocks and fallen trees show the impact of the ground's force, which can drag houses and change landscapes in seconds. Police officers wade through floodwater in the River Thames, with the British Parliament and Big Ben in the background in London. It shows the high tide spilling over the banks and making street access difficult, revealing how the city suffered from major floods. A crowd watches a dangerous wall act where cars and motorcycles race at high speed inside a huge vertical cylinder. A police officer carries a woman in his arms as he takes her toward an official transport vehicle with the door open. Nearby, other women appear to be restrained or escorted. High-angle rescue training, common in construction work and military operations. A man walks across a metal structure, while others are secured in a safety net below. A British pilot prepares to take off, highlighting the flight gear and the tight cockpit space. These aircraft were essential in the defense of the United Kingdom and in escort missions and air combat across Europe. An automatic vertical parking system in a large United States city. Cars were stacked on platforms and moved by mechanical elevators. The technology drew attention during the automobile boom era. A military officer watches a large parade of troops and artillery moving down a European avenue packed with civilians. During this time, parades like this were used to show strength, intimidate enemies, and boost morale. A massive military parade advances in formation in front of a monumental building, while a crowd fills the steps and the square to watch. A cigar factory in the United States where women work rolling and sorting the production. A man reads the newspaper to the group, a common practice in some workshops to inform and entertain during long workdays. A coal mine in the United States, with workers and small trains carrying ore through low tunnels. Coal was the main source of energy for factories, railroads, and home heating. An employee organizes a huge stack of paper money in a bank. Before the digital era, large amounts circulated physically and required manual counting, security, and strict control. A nuclear power plant control room with panels full of buttons and analog gauges. This type of facility expanded after the Second World War, when atomic energy began to be used to generate electricity. A workroom in a factory with women at long benches under natural light. This type of setting was common in the industrialization era, when many women entered the workforce in production and assembly lines. A crowd of workers gathers on a gigantic steel structure. The scene recalls strikes and labor protests for better pay and safety. A large passenger ship is docked at the port, packed with people on the decks, and a crowd gathered on the pier to watch. Passengers board a large commercial airplane when civil aviation was still new and flying was a luxury. The multi-engine design increased safety on long routes. Inside an old airplane, passengers travel in spacious seats while a flight attendant opens the overhead compartment. The curious detail is a baby sleeping in a crib attached above the seats. An arrested criminal poses for a police record in the United States, showing handmade tattoos common among sailors and prisoners. A man in a suit and hat is helped by workers as he climbs a rocky slope. It is a moment of cooperation in difficult terrain, possibly during a visit. Winston Churchill talks with a man and a young girl holding a dog in the White House garden in Washington. Behind the scenes of Star Wars filming in the Tunisian desert, where several Tatooine scenes were shot. The crew is seen adjusting cameras and equipment next to the robots R2-D2 and C3PO. During a time when the city was becoming a global symbol of culture and fashion, a woman poses on the metal structure with the Seine River in the background. The Statue of Liberty under construction in Paris, France, before being sent to the United States. The monument was dedicated in 1886 in New York as a gift from France, celebrating freedom and friendship between the countries. During a time when motorcycle travel gained momentum after the war, a motorcycle with a small tent trailer made for sleeping and traveling on a low budget. Young people have fun outdoors in a relaxed scene wearing typical clothing. A young man and 3 young women laugh while one of them holds a bow and arrow as if they are playing or trying to hit an improvised target. A group of young people walk on stilts in the middle of a busy street, surrounded by old cars and tall buildings. They wear berets and vests, seeming to put on an improvised performance or parade to draw attention. A street vendor serves customers on the sidewalk in London. The cart has a large kettle and the words "London" and "soft drink," recalling the simple routine of cities before modern supermarkets. A woman poses on a motorcycle in a post-war village in the United Kingdom. It shows how the motorcycle became an affordable means of transportation for work and leisure during a period of rebuilding. During a time when outdoor leisure became part of city life, women wear long dresses and parasols, reflecting customs before modern swimwear. A man in a light suit crouches in a large public square, surrounded by dozens of pigeons, holding one of them in his hands. Several uniformed workers lean into the windows of a train stopped at the platform, all in the same position, as if they were pushing or checking something at the same time. Women shop in an American supermarket wearing hair rollers as if it were completely normal. The shelves are full of boxed goods and canned foods. A customer sits in a beauty salon using an old perm machine with many tubes and wires attached to her hair. The hairdresser beside her follows the process. A teenage girl reacts with shock and joy as she holds a Beatles record while sitting on her bed surrounded by several vinyl records. The bedroom walls are completely covered with posters and cutouts of the band. A street in a large United States city with pedestrians, classic cars, and an ornate public clock above the corner. These clocks were meeting points before cell phones and set the pace of downtown commerce. A man appears tiny at the feet of a colossal pharaoh statue carved into the rock at Abu Simbel in Egypt. A tree swallowed an old bicycle over the years, leaving only parts like the wheel and handlebars showing through the trunk. Family habits very different from today. A child appears holding a cup next to a bottle on the table, something common in some homes at that time. A secretary works in an office using a typewriter and a landline telephone before computers. This type of work was essential for companies, banks, and newspapers, with letters, contracts, and reports prepared by hand. A period when thousands of women began working in roles once reserved for men. The portrait shows a mix of the era's fashion with symbols of service and discipline. An elderly man with a long beard wears a flight helmet and holds a cane. He has one foot on a step of a ladder leaning against the aircraft, as if he is about to climb up. A young man wearing glasses sits inside an old car, focused as he writes in a notebook or on paper on his lap. Outside the window, a few girls watch and smile as if they are curious. A woman poses on the sidewalk wearing a long white dress with a high slit on an urban street. She is barefoot with her shoes left beside her, staring at the camera with a firm and elegant expression. On a boat, a group of people enjoys a relaxed moment during a trip. In the center, a woman with light hair tied back looks over her shoulder wearing swimwear, while men around her talk and laugh. During a time when public playgrounds were becoming common, children play on tall bars and wooden structures with almost no protection. A woman walks along the sidewalk, pushing a baby stroller on a busy urban street. The baby is warmly bundled up and looking straight at the camera. Two street vendors pose on the sidewalk beside a stone wall and an iron fence. The woman, wearing a headscarf and a long dress with an apron, holds fruit in her hands. A maintenance truck drives through a residential street in the United States. In the front, a worker remains seated on a cart attached to the vehicle, equipped with tools and metal structures. Two people cross a kind of outdoor human cable car. On the left, a woman in a light dress and hat crosses the line with her legs stretched out. On the right, a man in a suit and beret does the same, swinging in the air. A man in a suit and hat is helped by workers as he climbs a rocky slope. It is a moment of cooperation in difficult terrain, possibly during a visit. A man in a suit stands on the staircase of an elegant building, throwing a large pile of books and folders to the side as papers and objects fly through the air. Inside a large stone memorial, a group of officers and soldiers silently observes a modern curved sarcophagus guarded by angel sculptures. A group of indigenous people poses outdoors at a desert camp, with children and adults gathered in front of a shelter structure made from branches and canvas. A group of women strikes an unusual pose on a staircase, all with cloths covering their heads and wearing shorts and high heels, while two men and a woman watch nearby.